Hi, this is Maggie from Design Code Debug Repeat. Welcome to the channel. This video and the others in the Chapter 5 Problem Solving with Python playlist are an introduction to the concepts you will need to write programs with functions. This video accompanies Problem Solving with Python Chapter 5, but it's okay if you don't have the book. The videos stand alone as instruction on these topics. In the last video, we talked about how to specialize functions with parameters and how to return values from functions. In this video, we're going to elaborate on that a little bit and talk about how to write a function that takes more than one parameter. Let's dive in. In the last video, we enhanced our text adventure game by adding a function for each location that takes as a parameter the direction the user wants to move and returns the user's new location based on movement in that direction. So if they're in the field, for example, they can move north to the settlement or east to the woods, or they can attempt to move west but be stopped by the unscalable cliff, or they can move south and fall in the river. We call those functions from the main game loop, which has an if, elif statement based on where the user currently is. So if they're currently in the field, then we call the visit field function, and if they're currently in the settlement, we call the visit settlement function, etc. Right now we have only 3 locations the user can visit, so this code isn't very long. But we probably will want to add more locations to this game. When we do that, this code could become quite long. It would be better to move it out of the main game loop so it doesn't clutter that up and make it hard to see the structure. So why don't we write one function, getNewLocation, and we'll let it tell us the new location based on the current location and the direction the user wants to move. That means we'll need to give it 2 pieces of information for it to do its job, both the current location and the direction. So I'm going to write that function first. I'll call it getNewLocation. So up in the area where I've defined functions, I'll write def getNewLocation, open paren, close paren, colon. I'll put a docstring under the header. Return the player's new location based on their current location and the direction they want to move. Okay, now again, it's going to take 2 pieces of information, current location and direction. When a function needs information to do its job, we pass the information in as parameters. Parameters go between the parentheses in the function header. And I think it makes sense to call those parameters current location and direction. So I'll put inside the parentheses current location of type string, and then a comma, and then direction of type string. So that's how we define a function to take multiple parameters. We put them all in the parentheses, separated by commas. Now, it doesn't matter what order I choose to put these in. I could also have put direction first. But once I've set the order in the function header, it's required that the arguments get passed in the correct order when I call the function. So if current location is first, when this function is called, current location must be listed first. Now I'm just going to cut the code from the game loop with the if, elif statement and paste it here. I'm going to define a local variable called newLocation of type string for the player's new location, and I'll put a comment over that, annotate variables. Where I'm testing location, I've now named that parameter current location. So this will look like if current location equals field, colon, indented new location equals visit field direction. So the structure of this code is the same. If the player is in the field, ask the visit field function where they're moving to next by giving it the direction the user wants to move and assigning its return value into a variable. But the variable names are just different here in this getNewLocation function because I've given them names that make sense here. So I've rewritten the 2 elifs as elif current location equals settlement, new location equals visit settlement direction, elif current location equals wood, new location equals visit wood direction. Above this if, elif statement, I'll put a comment, get the new location, by calling the appropriate function. And then we'll want to return that new location. So return new location. And let's annotate this function as returning a string. So in the function header, after the close parentheses, dash close angle bracket str. Look that over and make sure that makes sense. Now, back in the main game loop, we'll write under if choice is not equal to q, location equals get new location. And then in parentheses, we need to pass in the two parameters in order. This is where those idle tooltips can be helpful. Let me comment this out and just write pass here, which is a placeholder if I'm not ready to write any code. And let me run this program and immediately quit by choosing Q. Now let's go back to editing and I'll show you why I did that. Now get new location is defined. So if I go back to editing my line of code, location equals get new location, and then I type and open parentheses, notice that not only does the tooltip show me my docstring, but it also shows the parameters and their annotated types in the correct order. So if I've forgotten the order of parameters, the tooltip will help me. I'll only have access to that, though, if I've run the program. If you can't run the program, then another way to make sure you get the order right is to go up to where the function is defined and copy the parameter list and bring it down to where you're calling the function and paste it in. Use that as a guide. The names of your argument variables will most likely be different. So here we need to pass in the player's current location for the current location variable. And in our game loop, the player's current location is stored in the variable location. And we need to pass in the direction the user wants to move for the second parameter, direction. And in the game loop, that information is assigned to the variable choice. So I'll pass in location, comma, choice. So when we're calling a function with multiple parameters, we separate the arguments with commas. Remember, the values that location and choice reference will be copied up to the formal parameters, current location, and direction in the function. We call this copying way of passing parameters pass by value. It means that the function can't modify the variables location and choice because it only has a copy of the data. It's like copying a file from your hard drive to the cloud and then editing the version on the cloud. It doesn't change the copy that's on your hard drive. If we run this program, it will work exactly the same as it did before. I can move north, south, east, west, and then south into the river. It works the same, but the code in the game loop has been simplified. The other advantage to putting the code that figures out where to move next into a function is that we now know exactly where that code is if we need to add another location, debug, or make another change. That will be easier to modify than if we have to poke through the game loop to find it. Right now, our game loop is simple. But again, if we add more commands like inventory, look, pick up, drop, etc., then the game loop's going to get more complicated. We want to keep it as simple as possible so we can clearly see how the program works. I'm going to end this video here, and I urge you to practice with this. Try rewriting this program from scratch. If you have added other locations when you wrote this program in earlier videos, bring your locations along into this program. I've included an auto-graded exercise in the description of this video so you can practice with the video code. Once you've mastered the concepts here, you're ready to move on.